25 facts so crazy you won't believe they're actually true. 1. Elephants can hear with their feet. You'd think that with those enormous ears, elephants would be able to pick up on every sound, both near and far. But it turns out that to detect distant noises, the animals also hear with their feet. Normally, they would hold their big ears out like a parabola and scan back and forth. But to detect distant noise and vocalizations, they'd freeze and lean forward and put weight on their front legs. Caitlin O'Connell, the Stanford University research associate who discovered the phenomenon, told Sefgate. Sometimes they'd even lift up a front foot. All of them would do this at the same time. It was too coordinated to be a coincidence. 2. The shortest commercial flight in the world lasts just 57 seconds. The Loganair flight between the two Scottish islands of Westray and Papa Westray lasts just 57 seconds. At a distance of 1.7 miles, it's the shortest commercial flight in the world. However, because the trip is made via one of two 8-seater planes, the exact time of the journey could take a bit longer if there are strong winds. Loganair claims it takes less than a minute in a favorable wind. 3. There's a mushroom with teeth that looks like it's bleeding. The Hydenellum pechkii mushroom, which is found in Europe and North America's Pacific Northwest, looks like it's using drops of blood. That's why it's also called the bleeding tooth fungus. Despite its horrific appearance, the mushroom isn't poisonous, according to National Geographic. We still wouldn't recommend eating it. The taste has been described as very bitter pepper. But that's not all that makes this mushroom creepy. It also has tooth-like spines on the underside of the cap. 4. The world's largest blanket didn't even fit into an indoor arena. If you have someone in your family who likes to knit, then you've likely received a handmade blanket as a gift at some point. But perhaps the next time the knitter in your life wants to put their wool to good use, they could try to create something like the 21,471.95 square foot blanket that was made by more than 1,000 people from 32 different countries in August 2018. The record-setting blanket was so big that it filled the entire indoor arena in the Ennis Showgrounds where it was displayed, even overflowing up the walls. The blanket was then divided up into smaller blankets, which were donated to the Irish Red Cross. 5. The coast of France has had Garfield phones washing ashore since the 1980s. In the 1980s, phones in the shape of Garfield, the cartoon cat, began washing up on the Iowa's coast in the Brittany region of France, but nobody knew where they were coming from. Then, 35 years into the mystery, a local farmer named René Morvan revealed that a container ship carrying the feline phones had been hit by a storm and ended up in a nearby secluded sea cave. You had to really know the area well, he told France Info. We found a container aground in a fissure. It was open. Many of the things were gone, but there was a stock of phones. 6. Shakespeare's parents and children were likely illiterate. William Shakespeare remains one of the most famous playwrights and poets of all time. And while the bard attended grammar school to master reading, writing, and Latin, it's believed that his parents and children were almost entirely illiterate. The ability to read and write wasn't necessary during the Elizabethan era. And although Shakespeare's father, John, may have had a basic level of literacy, he signed his name with a mark instead of his full name. His daughters, Susanna and Judith, are thought to be totally illiterate, although Susanna could write her signature. 7. Japan uses sunflowers to clear up radiation. When a tsunami hit the Fukushima area of Japan in 2011, the radioactive fallout from the nearby nuclear power plant contaminated the land and water for 30 miles in every direction. According to the Telegraph, even outside the evacuation zone, the soil shows traces of radiation, which can wind up in any food grown there. To help rehabilitate the land, Buddhist monks began passing out seeds for field mustard, amaranthus, coxcomb, and sunflowers, all plants known to soak up radioactive particles. More than 8 million sunflowers were planted within the first 6 months after the disaster. 8. Canadians wanted to rename the Northwest Territories Bob. When Canada considered changing the name of the Northwest Territories in 1996, the public was asked for their input. And although various Aboriginal names were considered, Bob became the second most popular choice. David Hamilton, the clerk of the NWT, told the CBC it got caught up in a friendly hype rather than a serious hype. Fortunately, or unfortunately, the name-changing debate was set aside before Bob was put to an official vote. 9. An adult's blood vessels could circle the equator 4 times if they were laid end to end. The human body may seem minuscule compared to the size of the Earth, but adults have so many blood vessels that if you laid them end to end, they could circle the planet's equator, which is 24,901 miles. 10. If you tried a new variety of apple every day, it would take more than 20 years to try them all. If you're the kind of person who appreciates variety and would love to test a new type of apple every day of the week, then you're in for a decades-long endeavor. It would take you more than 20 years to try each of the 7,500 varieties of apples in the world. 11. A humpback whale was found in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. It's so inspiring to spot a humpback whale in the middle of the ocean, but it's jaw-dropping to see one in the middle of the Amazon rainforest. Yet that's exactly what happened in February 2019, when locals came across the body of what was believed to be a 1-year-old humpback in an area of mangrove trees in northern Brazil. Laying 49 feet from the river beach on Marajo Island, the 26-foot animal's cause of death is unknown, but researchers believe that the beached creature washed into the river mouth of the Amazon and was dumped on land as the tides pulled back. 12. The remains of the inventor of the Pringles can are in a Pringles can. Frederick Bohr was the man responsible for creating the iconic Pringles can. That's why, when he passed away in 2008, his children honored his wishes to be laid to rest in one. When my dad first raised the burial idea in the 1980s, I chuckled about it, Bohr's eldest son told Time. But it turned out, Bohr was serious. So after his death, his children stopped to buy a can of Pringles while heading to the funeral. His son recalled, "My siblings and I briefly debated what flavor to use, but I said, look, we need to use the original." 13. The Titanic almost experienced a collision days before it sank. Just days before the Titanic struck an iceberg and sank in April 1912, it almost hit another boat, according to a letter from steward Richard Gedd that was written on the doomed ship's stationery. Writing to his wife one day after setting sail from the United Kingdom, Gedd, who died in the tragedy, mentioned that as the ship was leaving the dock, it narrowly missed colliding with the SS City of New York. "We got away yesterday after a lot of trouble," reads the letter, which was auctioned in 2019. "As we were passing the New York and Oceanic, the New York broke her ropes and very nearly ran into us, but we just happened to avoid a collision." It must have been a trying time for the captain. 14. You might soon be able to compost yourself in the US. When you pass away, you could choose to have your body buried or cremated. But soon there may be another option: composting. In April 2019, a bill was passed in the state of Washington to make natural organic reduction a legal option. The process can turn a human body into compost within weeks by giving the natural process of decomposition a gentle boost. Bodies are put in a temperature-controlled rotating vessel along with some wood chips, straw, and gases. After the process is completed, a cubic yard of soil per person is left, which loved ones can then take home to grow a tree or a plant from if they so wish. 15. Fergie voiced Charlie Brown's sister, Sally. Before she was Fergie of the Black Eyed Peas, Stacey Ann Ferguson, better known as Fergie, was an aspiring child actor. In addition to starring on the show Kids Incorporated, Ferguson did voice acting work for the cartoons based on Charles M. Schultz's famous Peanuts comic strips. She provided the voice of Sally, Charlie Brown's younger sister, for 2 TV movies and several episodes of the animated series. 16. Pennsylvania's official amphibian is the snot otter. In 2019, Pennsylvania passed a law naming the eastern hellbender salamander, which also goes by the names Cryptobranchus alleghaniensis, devil dog, Allegheny alligator, Lawsonian lizard, and snot otter, as the state's official amphibian. And that's great news for the 2-foot-long creature that's facing a loss of habitat and a reduced population. Hopefully, this honor means that the snot otter's numbers can soon increase. 17. Christies and Sothebys played rock, paper, scissors to decide who would auction a $20 million art collection. In 2005, both Sothebys and Christies were eager to sell Takashi Hashiyama's $20 million art collection, which included works by Picasso, Vincent van Gogh, and Paul Cézanne. But when Hashiyama couldn't choose between the auction houses, he let a game of rock, paper, scissors make the decision for him. Both Sothebys and Christies were given a few days to select their weapon of choice. And while a Sothebys employee admitted to the New York Times that they didn't really give it that much thought and had no strategy in mind, the team at Christies researched the psychology behind the hit-or-miss game and talked to 11-year-old twin experts. daughters of a Christie's employee, who played it at school practically every day. The twins offered an informed suggestion, with one telling the Times, "Everybody knows you always start with scissors. Rock is way too obvious, and scissors beats paper." Since the auction house employees were beginners, scissors was definitely the safest. Christie's went with scissors and won. 18. NASA was sued by 3 men for trespassing on Mars. NASA has been working on Mars-related projects for years, but their exploration efforts faced an unexpected situation in 1997, when they were sued by 3 men for trespassing on the Red Planet. "We inherited the planet from our ancestors 3,000 years ago," the men from Yemen told the Arabic-language newspaper Al Fawri, according to CNN. However, in an interview with CNN, NASA brushed off the suit. Their news chief, Brian Welch, told the outlet, while apparently trying not to laugh, "It's a ridiculous claim. Mars is a planet out in the solar system that is the property of all humanity, not 2 or 3 guys in Yemen." 19. Climate change is causing a massive feces-related problem on glaciers. Climate change is causing all kinds of problems around the planet, including a weirdly nasty one on North America's highest peak. As glaciers melt on Denali in Alaska, an estimated 66 tons of feces that was left behind by mountain climbers is thawing as the area comes out of a deep freeze. As Smithsonian Magazine so perfectly puts it, that mountain of waste threatens to be unleashed as climate change warms the mountain and opens literal poop chutes in the surface of the glaciers. 20. Cotton candy was invented by a dentist. Cotton candy isn't exactly great for your teeth, and that's why it may surprise you to learn that the machine that makes this sweet treat was invented by a dentist named William Morrison. Though he looked after people's teeth for a living, in 1897 he also worked alongside confectioner John C. Wharton to create a cotton candy machine. 21. Bees can live inside of your eyes. It certainly hurts when you get stung by a bee. But what's even worse is having the creepy crawly creatures live inside of your eye. That's what happened to a 28-year-old Taiwanese woman in 2019, while participating in the Qingming Tomb Sweeping Festival, which involves cleaning up the graves of relatives who have passed away. The woman thought a bit of dirt had gotten into her eye, but when her eye swelled up, she went to a doctor who found something black that looked like an insect leg. The leg was attached to a 4 mm long bee, and it wasn't the only one. The doctor explained, "I grabbed the leg and very slowly took one out. Then I saw another one, and another, and another. There were 4 sweat bees in total, all were alive, and had been feeding off of the woman's tears." 22. You can spend the night inside a 28-foot-long, 12-foot-wide potato. The next time you're looking for a unique getaway, forget about booking a room at a quirky hotel, and instead consider spending the night in a giant potato. No, it's not a real freakishly large potato. It's a 28-foot-long, 12-foot-wide structure in Boise, Idaho, that looks like one, but it's made up of steel, plaster, and concrete. After being turned into a tiny apartment by the Idaho Potato Commission, it was put up on Airbnb, where you can book it for $200 per night. 23. Jack Black's parents are rocket scientists. Jack Black has made a name for himself in Hollywood by playing goofy characters such as the slacker-turned-fake substitute teacher Dewey Finn in 2003's School of Rock, and a monastery cook-turned-Mexican wrestler in 2006's Nacho Libre. But in real life, he's the son of rocket scientists. The actor was born on April 7, 1969, in Santa Monica, California, to Tom and Judy Black, who were both satellite engineers. His late mother, also known as Judith Love Cohen, worked on missions and projects such as the Minuteman missile, the Hubble Space Telescope, the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite, and the Apollo space program. 24. The Andy Warhol Museum celebrated the artist's birthday with a webcast from his gravesite. Normal people tend to throw typical balloon-filled, cake-eating parties for their birthdays. But Andy Warhol certainly wasn't a normal person. The pop artist, who passed away in 1987, was famous for pushing creative boundaries. That's why, to celebrate the artist's 85th birthday, the museum in his name set up a webcam to broadcast a stream that simply showed his grave to anyone who wanted to watch. 25. There are 3 different types of smiles. No single emoji can really capture the diversity of the human smile. One 2017 study from the University of Wisconsin-Madison found that people distinguish 3 basic types of smiles. Reward, given as praise, for example, to a joke, affiliation, to show a bond between people, and dominance, to signify higher social status. Each of these smiles looks distinct and involves different aspects of facial symmetry, eyebrow lift, and lip pulling. That's it for our list of interesting facts, but be sure to check in with us soon for even more trivia. Please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on what's next.